Redditors who work at remote places like forest officers, oil rig workers, etc. What creepy things have you noticed while at work? I used to work in the oil field for a company that sold oil tools for drilling and fracking companies to rent in Bridgeport, Texas. Our yard was next to a women's prison. We shared a fence with them. Sometimes when the ladies would be out on the yard they could see us working on our trucks or just doing random tasks and they would try to flirt with us and show us their tits and ass, and sometimes we would see a fight. Some nights I would get back to the yard really late and it was definitely against the rules for the women to be out in their yard after dark. A couple nights I got back at like 11 PM and I was the only one at the yard. I parked my truck all the way in the back like always. And one night specifically as I was walking away from my truck somebody whistled at me. It wasn't faint at all, like it was a very loud and clear flirtatious whistle. You know the one. Like the generic whistle that people do when they see someone they think is attractive. That hoot woo whistle. I don't know how else to describe it. But anyway, it creeped me TF out, especially when I looked back and there was nobody there, but it sounded so close. About a week later I got back to the yard late as F again, and I was still creeped out by what had happened the week prior. Well, I parked my truck in the same place and started walking away, and I'll be damned if I didn't hear the exact whistle again. I looked back and there was no one to be seen, so I yelled out, "Hoss there?" And just dead silence. I picked up my flashlight and shined it at the dark corner of the fence where it was coming from and couldn't see anything. Then I turned around and saw a dark figure standing on the opposite side of the yard in the back where there is never anything or any reason to be back there, plus it was way too late for anyone else to be at our yard. I yelled out, "Hey, what are you doing?" And they just climbed over the fence back to the side of the prison, over the effing razor wire, and into the darkness. I told my boss the next day and he said he think he's seen somebody back there at night too, but he never looked into it. Oh, still get so weirded out when I think about it. It is called a wolf whistle. Working late at night on a remote mine site. Changing out a switch in a substation on the edge of the pit. Just me and a quiet room full of gently humming transformers. I finish up and head for the door and I see 3 pairs of red eyes staring through the window. Nothing else visible. Just blackness and 3 sets of red eyes. Turns out goat's eyes reflect red at night. And they like staring in windows. I spent some time in the peat swamp forests of Borneo studying wild orangutan. We would go into the forest very early around 4 AM. One morning there was a clouded leopard on the trail we used to enter the forest. It was just crouched there watching us. We shouted, tried to act big. One of the indigenous people we worked with even took out his slingshot and shot rocks at it. He missed on purpose, just trying to scare it off. It stayed there for a good 5 minutes watching us before it slowly walked into the thick brush off the cleared trail. When we walked by I shined my light to where it had walked to and could clearly see a pair of reflective eyes only 3 meters away crouched watching us pass. Creepy but also incredibly cool to see one in person for how critically endangered they are at it. Since I've got quite a few requests for pictures, I just posted a picture I took of a baby orangutan named AskReddit. These were wild orangutans. We tried our best to keep our distance and never tried to touch them. The goal was to observe them while trying not to affect their natural behavior. That being said, over my year there I did get charged by one of the big dominant males in the area on 3 separate occasions, which is its own terrifying story to tell another time. He never did touch me, but sure scared the hell out of me and made me run at it. Since a lot of people are asking, I'm American who studied biology in college. How I got this job was a combination of luck and preparation. I worked my butt off in college and had field experience, and then we had a guest speaker one day who is a big name in orangutan conservation research talk to us. I had always wanted to go to Borneo and got to speak with her after the talk and discovered that she needed 2 students to go do research for a year after graduation. She interviewed me and the rest was history. I do want to mention to anyone considering this field that it is hard work. We would wake up at 3:30 AM. Spent 14 to 15 hours in a swamp forest following wild orangutans, taking data every 2 minutes. It was hot, humid and tons of mosquitoes. No communication to the outside world, except on our days off where we could take a 15-minute walk to a tree stand where we could sometimes get 1 bar of service to send a few WhatsApp messages to family. The camp was only 15-ish people and we would spend 2 to 4 months there at a time before going back to the city, Palangkaraya, to bring back samples. The location of this research was in central Kalimantan, Borneo. That all being said, it was an amazing experience, of course. Saw animals and insects that just blew my minds, and I miss it all the time. Happy to answer some more questions in PMs as low as I'm not flooded. I spent several seasons working at a remote field camp in Antarctica, over 1,000 kilometers from the main station in McMurdo. Everyone once in a while, a skua bird or Antarctic tern would accidentally end up following one of the small planes, twin otter, out to our camp. Once there though, they'd basically be stranded with no way to get back to the coast. I'd get out of my tent some mornings and see a lonely tern circling overhead, knowing it was a dead bird flying. It was quite creepy. Along these lines, when birds or seals do die down there, it's so cold and dry that their bodies don't decay either. They essentially mummify. Outside McMurdo at Scott's Discovery Hut, there is still a perfectly preserved seal carcass from 1912 sitting by the entrance of the hut. This is kinda fascinating. What did you do while in Antarctica? I was working on an ice core research team in West Antarctica. See here, https://www.wastedivide.unh.edu. I've worked in Canada's north for a few years now in oil and gas. It's pretty creepy when during night shift you realize a moose has just been standing at the tree line staring you down for an unknown length of time. Or finding bear tracks crossing the tracks you just made 5 minutes ago. Honestly, the silence of a snowy forest in the dead of night 100s of kilometers away from anything is pretty spooky. When your only contact to the outside world is a radio channel nobody's listening to, you feel pretty alone. Moose are freaky, man. Especially the screams. Those things mess you up. Occasionally biking out in the desert, I'll stop and get a drink and realize that there's a cow within 50 feet of me laying in a cow-sized patch of shade, or standing partly behind a rocky outcropping. It's sunsetting how anything weighing half a ton can just blend in, especially when it's certainly aware of me long before I'm aware of it. And who knows how many times I haven't even noticed ninja cows. Ninja cows. My world is complete. I was the creepy occurrence. I live on a ranch off of a quite dirt road. Our distant neighbors, nearest house is about 1 mile away as the crow flies, have had issues with people stealing things out of their outbuildings and storage sheds in the area. It was also late in the year, so it was starting to get dark around 6 p.m. So as a result, every time I would see headlights go down our road, I would watch to make sure they weren't stopping on the property. One evening I see a vehicle going very slowly down the road and come to a stop at the end of our driveway, about 120 yards from our front porch. The vehicle is parked right in front of a 60s pickup I have parked. So I think whoever it is might be looking to steal it, or just looking over the property. Whatever the case, I decide to put on a black coat and grab my rifle to go investigate. It's dark out, so I stay out of the headlights of the vehicle so I can get close. I can tell it is a white van, but I don't see anything else distinguishing about the van. When I'm about 50 yards away, the van backs up and turns into our driveway. I freeze as the headlights wash across me standing in the middle of my driveway, and I see the reflective FedEx logos on the side of the van. Needless to say, the FedEx driver probably s his pants as he suddenly sees a dark figure standing in the middle of a field, in the dark, holding a rifle. Surprisingly, after I try to give a friendly wave and smile, he continues up the driveway to the house, and I get to explain the situation and we both have a laugh. So that's how I got to be the creepy guy in some FedEx delivery driver story. Nice break from some of the darker stories here. Well placed, tell.